Welcome back everybody to PowerShell course. This is Alex Louis. Today what we're going to go into is more detail about the objects and data structures in PowerShell. So let's take a look. So we start with PowerShell objects, and PowerShell actually uses objects to represent the data. Everything you see in PowerShell is what we call object oriented. So to those that don't have a programming background, don't worry about it. We're gonna get a little technical, but not too much. It's gonna be enough for you to create your PowerShell script. So what does object oriented mean? It means that there are blueprints of certain things in the Windows environment that are already pre-built for you, meaning that you don't have to parse any data. You can utilize the methods and functions and properties of an object that already exists in PowerShell. So for example, you can take any simple process in PowerShell, or well, let's actually dig a little back. If you have a task, such as in your task manager, that's represented as an object in PowerShell. And I'm going to show you an example of what I mean by that. And with this object, you have different properties and methods that are accessible to you in which you can call. And it allows you a lot of power and flexibility versus if you're a Linux administrator or Unix administrator, you'd probably be grepping the hell out of things in order to parse some type of data or kill processes or just check statuses of processes. With PowerShell, it makes it a little bit easier for you to handle. I mean, you still have the concept of piping commandlets to other commandlets, but there is a certain type of structure that you can use that PowerShell allows you to have. Now, this is very important in the PowerShell world because if you understand the way that objects work, then you can pretty much use or write any PowerShell script and just look up the functionality and methods and properties that you're able to use. And again, we're not going to be going into parsing hell anymore. We're actually going to be using the predefined methods and properties of the object in question. So let me move on. So in this lecture, what I want to do is I want to focus on two commandlets. The first one is the get process, and maybe we'll do a little example with the hotfix commandlet, and I can show you what I mean by looking at its properties and methods. So let us explore the commandlet called get process, which is what I was planning to cover on this topic today. So as you see, I have the PowerShell ISE opened up, and I do have a PowerShell file. This is my working directory. I'm just going to save this. We'll call this our second PowerShell script. And then what we're going to do is we're going to type in the command. And let this run. Okay, so get process is a commandlet. But we treat this commandlet, and we can say that get process is a collection of objects. So get process is going to give you a collection of objects. So what does that mean? It means that get process is a list, and in this list you have these particular, well, the way that you see it right now is it's like a flat table where you have columns, but really what these are called properties. Okay, and the way that we can see if a commandlet has what properties it has is by piping it to the get members. So if we do the following, this is going to tell me all the properties available in this list. And for now, in terms of your understanding, you can think of the property itself as some data point in a column, because that's really, if you're coming from a Unix background or a DOS background, that's basically, in layman's terms, is that each individual object in this list has these data points with them. But let's run this specific pipe. Okay, so I just ran get process, I piped that, and then I wanted to use the get member. Get member gives me all the properties available to me in this specific commandlet. What that means is that I have access to all these properties and methods really in my commandlet. So if I were to select one of these specific processes, I can use or select the individual property inside this process. So if we go back to the concept of objects, you can think of each row. Let me just go back, sorry about that. You can think of each row here as an object. And this object has access to all these properties. So if I were to grab this alert viewer object, it's a process, because that's what this get process commandlet does. It tells me what processes are running. I can represent this specific process and use the properties available to me for this specific process. So again, the members of this object are what you see here. This is a default list. A more concise list is if you just run the get member commandlet, and you can see all the properties that I have available. Now you see the properties and then the methods, and yes, we have access to these. I'm going to show you in a little bit how that works. Okay, let me show you something real quick. So what I can do now is I have a list. So get process gives me a list of processes that are running right now, and what I can do is I can use the word select, and I can select the specific property for the list. So let's say I don't want to show all these specific properties for my list. I just want to show the process name. So what I can do is I can type in select, and then we can say process name. And what that's going to do is it's going to pipe this list and then pipe it into this command, which says just select the process name. So that's something that's pretty cool. So you see that these are all the process names. These are all the process names. Now let's say I only wanted a specific process. Okay, what I can do is now I can say, let's say I want I think I'm running Cisco. Let's see, Cisco MTA. Let me just check. WebEx. I'm sorry, I'm running WebEx in the background. Yes, I'm running WebEx in the background. So let's say I want to select that specific process for whatever reason, right? I can say get process and then name, and then I can say WebEx MTA, and PowerShell ISE will do the IntelliSense and tell me that. What this will do is now it's querying the list and it's getting me anything with a name that has WebEx MTA. So if I run that, See that? Now, what I'm doing here is I'm getting one specific object from this list of objects, okay? So this is one object and these are its properties. Now, if I want a more extensive list, you saw by using getMember, I was able to access these properties, see what properties are available to me for this commandlet. And that's important because if you're going to run different commandlets, then you want to know what properties are available. You want to know what properties are available. So now let's test a little script here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to write a little script here where I'm going to assign, I want to get the object here, right? So you remember from our previous example, I want to access this object and I want to do something with it. So what I can do, okay, so if I run this again, I want to get this specific object and store it in a variable. And then we're going to kill it. We're just going to kill it because kill is part of our member set. So let me just write the member and you can use GM as a shortcut for getMember. So kill is a method that I can use for a specific object. Okay, so let's isolate this object here. Okay, let's isolate this object. And how would I do that? Well, I can use a variable. Okay, I can use a variable. Now we're talking about variables and assignments. And remember, everything's an object. So an object is something in memory right now that is taking up space. So what we can do is I can say the following. I can say my WebEx process is equal to the WebEx process, right? With this variable, now I can call any property that I want. So, and how would I do that? I could do this. I can say my web process dot, and when you see dot, you see all the properties that are available to me, right? So then I can just do CPU, and then you see that this is the CPU usage that's being used by the WebEx. The other thing I can do is if we look at the process task manager, right? You see that WebEx is running currently, right, under myself. What I want to do is now I want to kill it. I want to kill it. So if we say dot kill, and this is a method, it's not a property. So when you use methods, you're going to have to use parentheses. And then if I run that, okay, now you see it, and now you don't. Pretty cool trick, right? Pretty cool trick. So what does that mean now? Well, it means that now I can iterate through all my processes. And for each process, I have these member objects that are available to me. That's what that means. Very powerful stuff. I don't have to filter anything. I don't have to do any type of grep. I have these properties available to me, and that's a beautiful thing. I think that's a beautiful thing. Okay, on the next video, we're going to be taking a look at another command called getService, and then maybe we'll do more examples like getConfig and all that stuff. Okay, so stay tuned for the next video as we're delving in deeper into objects in PowerShell.